everybody, and welcome to our surprise LinkedIn Live. We've got a surprise guest today, Sunny Grasso. So exciting to be with all of you today. So I know that some of you may be coming on a little bit later, but as you come on, if you would go ahead and enter into the chat where you're coming from so we can see where people are coming from. So Sunny, welcome.
Hi, Laura. Hi, everyone. It's so good to be here with you.
It's so awesome to have you. How are you
awesome
today?
To be here. You know, I'm pretty sunny today, actually. It's a good day. It's beautiful in the city. I know I'm across the city from you.
Awesome. And I'm actually coming to all of you today from Bend, Oregon. This is the background when I'm in Bend, Oregon, as opposed to San Francisco. So we're on the same coast here, Sunny, but you're down in the Bay Area and I'm up here in Bend, Oregon. But nice to hear that it's sunny there as opposed to being fogged in. So I want to introduce everybody today to our wonderful guest. This is Sunny Grasso. Sunny is an incredibly excellent human being. She's a very good friend of mine. And she's also one of the world's first happiness consultants, AKA Coach Sultant, right? Did I get that right, Sunny?
100%.
A long time part of the team at Delivering Happiness, one of the founding members. So Sunny, welcome. And you and I first met back in 2017. We were both at the National Wellness Conference. You were a keynote. I was leading one of the academies there. And what a nice full circle that here we are back together again right now on LinkedIn Live. So welcome back. So good to have you.
It's so fun to think about that moment. You know, I remember when I first walked into the room, I was done with my talk and I saw this dynamic, really fit, energetic woman with this session. Just everybody was enraptured by what you were saying, and so was I. So I ended up sitting through the whole thing in the back.
Well, and I also, during your keynote, which preceded that, I loved the way you really made a topic. You were talking about happiness, of course, but you made it really personal. You shared your own personal story, which I think is so important for all of us to understand the connection between the science that's out there, but also how it's so personal. And I also love the way that you engage the audience. So what a pleasure now to be back together. So our topic today is on career well-being. And I would love it, Sunny, if you could just kind of start us off, kind of level set for us here. How would you define career well-being? What does that mean?
Yeah, it's such a good question because there's a lot of complex ways to answer this. We have 20 years of research in the field of positive psychology. But in short, in essence, it's basically how you feel about your work or at work today. So feelings of positivity, contentment, short-term and long-term feelings, and how you feel about it overall. And this means, is it worthwhile? Is it generally good? Does it contribute positively to your life? So how you feel today and overall, and really what it boils down to, a lot of people will press past that. They'll say, what else? And that is, can you be your true self? And that will lead you to most of the other results.
Awesome. So, you know, I like to kind of say it really simply is, do you love what you do? And, you know, there was a Gallup study that came out showing that when asked in the morning, first thing in the morning, are you excited about going to work, whether it's virtually or in person? Are you excited about it? And apparently only 20% responded with an enthusiastic yes. And so I see that we've got April Jones with us here, part of the team, AKA AJ. And we also have Sarah coming in from San Francisco. Sarah, welcome. And so for any of you others, as you're coming in, go ahead and write in the chat where you're coming from. So let's go ahead and break this down, Sunny, a little bit about this concept of loving what you do, and are you able to be your full authentic self when you come to work? Or, you know, Sunny, I remember one time I was getting well-meaning career advice. And this guy told me that I needed to modify myself. Right? I needed to modify myself in these interviews. I was kind of in between, you know, in the midst of interviews, and that the only way that I was going to be able to get a job that I wanted to land was by, quote, modifying myself.
Wow.
And I know that you talk a lot about career well-being, is that you get to actually be your full authentic self. So let's talk a little bit more about what are the key elements that go into this. And I want to also share, we've got a couple others. We got Stephanie Grenier coming from Ottawa, as well as a good friend of mine from Stanford, Leslie Kilby.
Oh,
Hi,
cool.
Leslie. Also coming from San Francisco. So break this down for us, Sunny, around what are the key elements so that people can really feel this deep sense of career well-being.
Yeah, that's so interesting that you got that advice, Laura. There was for a long time this idea that, you had to fit in to get ahead. And certainly that is one mindset, but it's been pretty outdated. And especially now, as people are reconsidering what's most meaningful in their lives, they're changing. Already, work has changed. So one of the key, if we just really boil it down to the basics, there's many elements, and we'll talk about a few of them, I'm sure, but if you can be your true self, so mask is off. You're not putting on one mask when you get to work. And that's a tremendous waste of energy. If you show up there and you're trying to fit in, you're trying to be someone else, you're never really going to uncover who you are. So, we used to talk about, I just want to fit in. And then I think it was, I just want to be my best self. And really, we also have to think about, I want to be free. If we want to be me at my best, as I know you talk about, we also have to be free to understand who me is. So this really comes down, to understanding, what do you believe? What do you value? And can you be that way at work? Or do you have to put on airs around the people that you're with? Yeah.
I think another thing that we hear a lot about is this kind of traditional saying that you got to check your emotions at the door, right? Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite examples of leaders who are kind of looking at this a little bit differently is Chip Conley. I talk about this a lot. And when he was CEO of Joie de Vivre, which, as you know, Sunny, is a California-based boutique hotel chain. When he was CEO, he actually nicknamed himself the Chief Emotions Officer, because he believed just the opposite, that you need to bring your full authentic self, emotions and all. Bring those with you, because if we try to kind of, bring just part of ourselves, we suffer, our coworkers suffer, and ultimately the customers suffer as well. So it doesn't serve anybody, doesn't serve the individuals, the teams, or the bottom line for the organization or the people that they're serving. So let's talk a little bit more about each of these. And Scott, I'm noticing it looks like that we're not scrolling up here on the comments. So if we can get that sorted out, that would be great. Thanks. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the values piece here, Sunny. And I think that you had a question that you wanted to ask the audience around that.
Yeah, sure. So, by the way, I did not know that about Chip. I've met him a number of times. There's always some new facet to, what he's up to, what he's doing. Yeah. But, if you can bring your beliefs and your true self to work, then we really owe it to ourselves to do that. Once you take the time to understand who you are, and that takes self-reflection, and it takes a real desire to understand it. I think that's not to be underestimated as we talk about this. Some of us are actually happier to put our heads in the sand and not deal with these things, because happiness isn't about being happy all the time, being, healthy and well at work. Means confronting some of the sticky things that are in our way. So get honest with yourself about, do you want to be closer? Do you want to know yourself? Most of us do, but it will take some work. And then once you uncover your values, your beliefs, you get closer to what really matters to you. Live it, breathe it, dance it, be it. Do have the courage to bring that part of yourself to work. And that's actually one of the top regrets of the dying, is that I wish I'd had the courage to be my true self. So I do have a question.
And I also, interestingly enough, one of the other top dying regrets was that I wish that I had expressed my feelings more. So we can really see how, top dying regret being, I wish I'd had the courage to be my true self, not the one that others expected of me. That hand in hand with that is being able to truly express our feelings. And it's interesting because with happiness, we actually have, Sunny, and I don't know if you would agree with me on this, but I think that there's a mandate in our culture to be happy all the time, right? And there's not room for grief, or there's not room for feeling angry, or there's not room for wanting to put our head in the sand and kind of retreat a little bit. But we really need to have access to the full range so that we can, in fact, be happy, be our, in order to be our true authentic self. Happiness is a part of that. But we can't just be that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a saying. I also teach a little yoga. And, there was a saying for a while, good vibes only. And that is so misguided. It is not just about trying to be happy all the time. It doesn't work that way. If you're happy all the time, then you're going to actually start to flatline. You're going to end up more apathetic. You need the highs and lows in life. And we learn from those lows who we are. They bring us closer to ourselves, to what's important to us, as many of us have just experienced through the pandemic. So happy all the time is out. Feeling is in.
I like that. Happiness is out. Feelings are in. And certainly with current events, what's happening in the Olympics and, people like, people coming forward and really being more authentic with the way they're feeling, I think that it is really leading the way for us to be able to have those conversations. So a couple others that we see, I see Rana DeBoer is with us here, coming from the city of Sioux Falls in South Dakota. So awesome to see you, Rana. Rana is also a longtime friend. So great to see these new people and also friends who are on board here. So
should we give them a question, Laura? Should we give the new people a question?
Please go ahead and bring that question out.
Okay, so one of the traditions we have at Delivering Happiness is when we have a new hire, we ask them this word stem, my people are. So I want to invite all of you new people, hello to everyone out there. What would you say in that word stem? How would you fill in the blank? My people are blank.
Ooh, and is this something that would work well on a piece of paper here? My people are.
You could do it here.
Okay, I'm going to actually write something down. Here we go. Right. I don't know if you can see it. It says authentic. My people are authentic. Looks like we also have Mai coming in here, who says, great topic. Thanks so much, Mai. So my people are blank. How about for you, Sunny?
My people are loyal. So I'd love to see some of what other people are populating this with, but it's a really simple way to start to see, what do you value about your tribe, about the people around you, and what should you be looking for in a workplace environment?
And Sunny, we've actually got a couple that have come in. So Lindsay Johnson. Lindsay, so nice to see you. Another friend who's joining us here. My people are dedicated. And Stephanie, my people are allowed to be human. And AJ writes, my people are real. Same as yours, Laura. So thanks so much for these, and keep them coming. My people are blank. Now, I know my people are servants and have a servant's heart. Rana writes in, and along with a couple of hearts, and I love that. Thanks so much for that, Rana. My people come first, and productivity shall follow, Stephanie writes. Just such good nuggets here, and it's so nice to really get that input from all of you as we're going through this. Now, I know that another piece of this, Sunny, is connectedness. Feeling connected. Can we talk a little bit more about that piece of career well-being?
And, I love that framing it around well-being is so important these days. We've seen daily stress go up 60%, and worry and burnout have all gone up around similar numbers. So we have this sort of built-in mechanism to become resilient against stress and burnout, fatigue, and also against ailments, for our health and longevity, and that is connectedness. So ultimately, this is like, after the need to survive, there's the need to belong. So it's fundamental to who we are. And it's also really about this need that we have. We have to look at it like a need, even though it's emotional and it's intangible. It's the need really to be seen and to be heard, be understood, be loved. It's really the need to belong. So When we also look at the stats here, we have seen an epidemic of loneliness. Loneliness was about 20% in the 80s. It's gone up steadily. It's over 60% of people now feel a sense of loneliness in their lives. So it's really something that we have to think about.
Yeah. And, it's interesting. We just got survey results been working with Blue Cross Blue Shield of North Dakota for the last couple of years. And we just ran our Managers on the Move series with all of their managers and leaders. And so we're doing a pre and post assessment. And the good news is that even in this challenging time, everybody showed an uptick in all the different domains of well-being, in these different domains we've been talking about over the course of these series, even emotional well-being. But the one area where we saw a downtick is in social well-being. And to your point, loneliness was an issue before the pandemic, now even more so. And this is something that I'm seeing with a lot of friends firsthand, really struggling with kind of a disintegration of some of the networks that have been in place just because people aren't able to kind of stay connected with those regular get-togethers.
Yeah, and this is a tough challenge also to approach because it creeps up on you. You may feel a lot of things before you feel lonely because it's such a primal need. A lot of us have other ways of dealing with it, and we have other coping mechanisms. When take those away, and you can start to feel, oh, I don't know, I'm just off. I don't feel right. I feel tired all the time. I don't feel supported. But it's also really important to our career well-being because that creates this sort of social capital. That's the glue. If you think of a brick wall, all these individuals, we're all bricks in the wall, to bring back the Pink Floyd song. But the mortar in between them is what keeps us together. And that creates a team. That's what bonds us and builds the unity. And also our identity comes from there. A lot of our resilience comes from there. So it's important to be really conscious of your connections and not just create breadth of connections. That's great. You have, 500 LinkedIn contacts and you've got 100 friends on social media. Who can you call when you have a challenge? Who can you call to just pick up the phone and be yourself with? Those are the connections that really insulate us from challenge.
And, interestingly enough, again, tying this back to career well-being, we know that those people who not only have a good friend, but a best friend at work, they are 7 times more likely to be highly engaged in their work. This is part of the Gallup Q12 survey that's been out there for a long time. That seems to be the one that matters the most. Do you have a best friend at work? Yes. And if you do, you're 7 times more likely to be highly engaged in your work, which really brings us to the next thought. A question that I like to throw out a lot is the work that you do, would you say that it's a job? Is it a career? Or is it your calling? For those of you who are on the call, what would you say is the work that you do? Is it a job? Is it a career, or is this your calling? And so while you're writing these in and we get some responses here, job, career, or calling, why don't you break down for us, Sunny, a little bit about what makes the difference between, a job, kind of clock in and clock out, career, we're kind of doing this to advance, maybe for the status, and then calling, this is deeply connected to who we are, our truest kind of identity you were talking about. So over to you, Sunny, about those.
I love it that you're bringing this back up, Laura. I love it that this is coming back up for us. There's been so much of this research that's been out there for a long time, and people are gravitating towards it now because we've had so much change in our world. So, you kind of said it, but the way I like to think about it is a job is basically, it's a means to an end. So you are showing up so that you can live your life outside of work. It's not something that you identify with. What you identify with are your hobbies, your life, your family, things outside of work. A career is a means to achieve, a means to advance. So this is about climbing the ladder, getting ahead. And we do start to identify with it at this level. So it becomes sort of an egoic level very easily. It can also be an authentic one, but it's about making that progress. And then finally, we can look at a calling as a means to meaning. So this is about that sense of purpose and meaning. So when we get to that level, we're not looking at it necessarily as, this is my identity and what I do, or this is how I get to enjoy my life. It is life. It becomes who you show up as it is you at that stage, you know? So you go into work at that point and it's just an extension of yourself. And this, you know, this research, it's been around for so long and it hasn't really changed. It's not an output of socioeconomic status. We all have an equal opportunity to have a mindset of a job, a career, or a calling.
And, you know, I think one of the most famous stories of that is the story of 1962. JFK goes to NASA, visits NASA, and has this encounter with a janitor there and asks the janitor what he's doing. And the janitor responds with, "Mr. President, I am part of the team that is sending a man to the moon." So again, really showing how, you know, just how much it doesn't necessarily correlate with your position within the organization. What matters most is that you really connect it with a deeper sense of meaning. And we know that meaning is having a sense of meaning is one of the things that is hardwired into all of us. Perhaps best captured by Viktor Frankl in his seminal book, Man's Search for Meaning. So a couple of comments that we've gotten here. Erin Mayer says that this is a career for her. AJ, definitely my calling. And AJ also noted that I just recently have a blog post about this idea of job, career, calling. So go ahead and check that out. So again, write in, is this a job? Is this your career? Or is this your calling?
Yeah. And I think it's great to note here, they are all okay. It is all where you are on your path to life. So if you don't find your calling and meaning in work, you probably find it elsewhere. But the most important thing here is to think about how can you bring more meaning and purpose into your work, because we spend half of our waking hours there at work. And the research really shows that it's very hard to have well-being the rest of your life if you don't have career well-being.
Yeah. I mean, this idea of kind of turning yourself off, your true authentic self off when you come to work, kind of partly shutting down a little bit, and then we kind of come to life outside of work, just doesn't work. Ultimately, we really want to be able to kind of find meaning in both spheres, both when we're at work and when we're away at work. Yeah. And, you know, bringing it back to those top dying regrets, one of the top dying regrets was also, I wish I hadn't worked so hard. But I wonder if part of that dying regret is work can feel hard if we don't derive meaning from it, right? So if we're feeling that sense that we're kind of, our day-to-day experience when we're at work is devoid of meaning, it's going to feel pretty hard. Whereas if it feels like it's full of meaning, then it's not going to feel so hard. It's going to feel like something that's kind of a continuation of our life full of meaning. So,
yes,
Sunny,
Lauren,
we have
it integrates.
Yeah, exactly. That the two are
work
integrated.
Is life. Yes.
Absolutely. So we have a surprise announcement, which I am so excited about. In addition to the fact that you are our surprise guest today, you're also a surprise member of the Motion Infusion team.
Woo!
So to celebrate that, I have a Greek bottle of wine. I also brought a glass with me here. I have a corkscrew. I think you have something else here, Sunny. I'm going to open this up as you're
so interesting. I just happen to have a little kombucha, a little health aid.
Okay. Bubbles.
Bubbles. Yeah, here. Oh, yeah.
So, Sunny, tell us a little bit about, you know, kind of your work that you've expanded from working primarily in the kind of happiness sphere. And, you know, you've been talking a long time about this idea of happiness at work. And now you've kind of been doing more and more work in yoga, and now kind of starting to bring those threads together, perhaps to become even more your authentic self by joining and becoming a member of a well-being team at Motion Infusion. Cheers, everybody. Cheers to you, Sunny.
Cheers to Laura. Motion Infusion. Here we go.
Yeah, cheers also to all of our listeners.
Here we go.
So,
cheers.
Cheers. So tell us a little bit about this idea of happiness at work, why it matters, and how that also integrates with movement and well-being. And cheers.
Yeah. Salute, Laura. It's such a dream. And we're talking about job, career, and calling, and I think our callings can change as well. I feel called to this work to study human behavior, human thriving for a long time. I grew up in a place that wasn't thriving. My family was, more of a survivor's family, and I was always drawn to how do I flip the coin on that. And it's progressed to, after studying happiness and well-being for 10 years and applying it around the world and creating this model that we've successfully iterated on at delivering happiness, there's a limit to the science. Mm-hmm. And I started to feel what is the deeper level of understanding these concepts. And I started going to yoga trainings and became, a yoga teacher and all of that, because there's a spiritual side to it as well. So in that exploration, I really started to understand that I'm called more to this well-being space. So holistically thinking about how do we thrive as humans, not only the emotional part, which is very complex and fascinating, but also, physical and financial and all the other ways that you've been exploring lately on your LinkedIn Lives.
One thing I think that you're bringing up, Sunny, and I would love to hear from the audience here, is the power of the pivot. The power of the pivot. So this represents a pivot for you. Continuing to work in this domain of happiness at work, we know that really matters, but also starting to connect that with more of a kind of explicit focus on well-being. So would the audience members share what are some key pivots that you have had in your careers? So I know Rana, for example, has had some pivots around her work with the city of Sioux Falls, kind of starting to bring well-being with leadership and energy, kind of bringing those together. But again, what are some key pivots that you've had? Lindsay, I know, had a kind of a key pivot where she had a kind of a coming to Jesus moment, if you will, where she went on a long trip, had some loss in her life, and really realized that made a change in her career to really move in the direction of well-being. That was a pivot for her, and now has a fabulous company called Fit Pros that she started out of that. So pivots for our audience, write that in. And as people are writing that in, Sunny, could you share for us, what do you think are our top 3 tips here around manifesting career well-being for all of us?
Okay, I love this. Number 1, be intentional about who you connect with. Do another exercise, grab a piece of paper, write someone's name on it right now. Just jot it down, reach out to that, write down what they have taught you. Just 3 bullets. 3 bullets. Laura, I actually did it for you.
Okay.
Laura, you've taught me faith and belief in myself, pace, and how to, keep an achievable one, and also humility. So, and then share it with them. That was very quick, but schedule a time. So create connections around you. Look for people who are like valued and like believed as you are. So that's number 1. Number 2 is really about, we all need to be making progress in our lives. Dan Pink talks about it. Many of the researchers talk about it. One of the latest definitions of happiness was simply making progress in meaningful goals. So set self-concordant goals, as Tal Ben-Sahar likes to call them, from Harvard's most popular course. But essentially, what are your goals for yourself, and how can you equate those to work? So create your own goals at work. AJ, who's on this call, said to me earlier this year in the pandemic haze, and I was rethinking everything, and I was going through that pivot, Laura, she said, write down 3 things that you want to achieve this year. And I still have those 3 for myself up above my computer. So that's number 2. And number 3 is we get very stuck in our own lives. Think outside of ourselves, create meaning, create progress, create purpose by doing for others. It sounds so simple. I've thrown this one away so many times, but it will pull you out of your own mindset and out of the things that are going on in your head. Serving others brings us inherently meaning. It brings us connection. It also brings us a sense of progress. These are all elements we need in our lives. So look
okay, so Sunny, I have captured this as person. I know it's hard to see. Then progress, and then purpose. So who's that person? that you want to kind of, identify what what inspires you about the way they do it, set goals so you feel a sense of progress, and then really connect with that deeper purpose. I want to share Rana. First of all, Lindsay, nice smiley face for sharing that story. Rana, strong pivot to career well-being in my work and making that an anchor in my new role as chief culture officer. Such a great pivot. Thank you so much. The connection of personal energy for leaders and its direct impact on the performance and productivity of their team. Thank you so much for that, Rana. So we are at the top of our finish line here. Sunny, can you share with us very briefly how we can stay in touch with you? And also, AJ is reminding me, be sure to text MOTION to 66866 to join my newsletter. So thank you for that reminder, AJ. So share with us, Sunny, how we can stay in touch with you.
Yes, and I love it if you do. I truly love to hear if you got something out of this. It's sunny@deliveringhappiness.com. That's Sunny like today is in San Francisco. Say that way, please. At deliveringhappiness.com.
Awesome. And then I know you also have a new email, sunny@motioninfusion.com. So I'm thrilled about that. And I want to share also very quickly, Lindsay also wrote in, after a decade of working in a high-profile marketing career. So in that career realm, I finally realized that what was missing in my life was love for myself, which in turn resulted in drinking too much and making poor decisions. After making the pivot, I discovered community and found my purpose. So moving up to the calling level in health and well-being and helping others. I can't think of a better way to close us up. Thank you, Lindsay, for your powerful line here. And AJ is providing your information to stay in touch with you, Sunny, with all of us. Sunny, thank you so much for being our guest today. Congratulations for joining the Motion Infusion team. Thank you to all of our listeners today. We'll look forward to seeing you next month. The fourth Wednesday of the month, I'll have Charles Vogel as my guest. We'll be talking about community well-being. Until then, stay in touch on LinkedIn and all the other social media channels or on my newsletter. And again, big thanks to you, Sunny. See you all in a month.
Thanks, Laura. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.